Food aphrodisiacs. Aristotle termed the semen the most perfect part of the food, and advised its careful retention. He claimed that the eating of stimulating and pungently flavoured foods caused its loss. This is true because all substances that irritate the mucous membranes in general, and the genital mucous membranes in particular, act as aphrodisiacs, as do salt, pepper, mustard, and other irritating condiments. Raw onions and garlic are also somewhat irritating. Uric acid, an end product of protein metabolism, also irritates the genitourinary mucous membrane and acts as a sexual excitant, for which reason foods that produce much uric acid in the blood, as meat, fowl, fish, seafood, many kinds of nuts, etc., act as sexual stimulants. Coffee, tea, and cocoa all contain toxic alkaloids, which form uric acid in the system, and are therefore strong aphrodisiacs. Dr. McDougall of London reports that several of his patients afflicted with spermatosa, chronic genital discharge from males, corresponding to leukorrhea among females, and generative debility discovered that tea and coffee always proved harmful in this respect, by aggravating such discharges. Raymond mentions a case of a man who suffered from frequent nocturnal emissions that proved quite debilitating as a result of excessive coffee drinking. But when the coffee was discontinued, the emissions stopped, and the patient was restored to health. Cocoa, which contains the alkaloid theobromine, has long been regarded as an aphrodisiac. The Peruvian Indians used it as a sexual excitant, and to promote contractions of the womb. Professor Howe writes as follows on the aphrodisiacal effects of coffee in producing nocturnal emissions. Quote, "A professor, 30 years of age, engaged in a new method of tuition, had recourse to very strong coffee to keep himself awake, and took 8 to 10 cups every night. Soon after, he suffered from constipation and disordered digestion, attended with great discharge of flatus. His intellect and memory declined, so he became unable to finish his course of instruction, and sleep had left him entirely, although he had for some time given up taking coffee. On consulting me, he confessed that he had become completely impotent, after having experienced frequent and abundant pollutions." Tobacco is another powerful aphrodisiac, due to its irritating effects of the genital mucous membrane, which is the seat of sexual sensibility. Those working in tobacco factories are said to be greatly troubled by profuse involuntary emissions. Physicians report that males in tobacco factories are said to be greatly troubled by genital diseases and impotence, as a result of profuse involuntary emissions. These conditions also follow from the use of tobacco. Raymond reports a case of impotence brought about in a young man as the result of excessive diurnal and nocturnal emissions, resulting from too free use of tobacco. According to Professor Howe, tobacco has the tendency to increase involuntary seminal emissions by its irritating effect on the genital mucous membranes, which is even more marked among women than among men. Smoking makes women sterile. It is also believed to produce cancer. Resi produced cancer experimentally on the ears of rabbits by blowing tobacco smoke on them.